What happens when a former royal agrees to a Good Morning Show interview, only to be ambushed on live TV? The tension inside the Good Morning America studio was razor sharp. What was supposed to be a light segment promoting Meghan Markle's latest humanitarian work quickly spiraled into a televised showdown that left producers scrambling and viewers speechless. The morning began like any other. Michael Strahan sipped his coffee, ran through his notes, and prepared for what he thought would be another easy celebrity chat. Meghan Markle, poised and polished in a cream blazer, was set to discuss veterans' advocacy, women's empowerment, and children's literacy. The studio had been briefed keep it light, keep it safe, but Strahan had other plans. As the cameras rolled and the GMA theme music faded out, he smiled and greeted Meghan warmly. "We're here with Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, philanthropist and former actress. Thank you for having me." "Michael," Meghan replied, perfectly composed. Then came the shift. "You've spoken a lot about the British press, racism, and mental health. But I have to ask, do you take any responsibility for the negative coverage you've received?" The studio froze. Meghan's smile flickered. This wasn't the interview she was promised. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "Could you clarify what you mean?" Strahan leaned in. "You left the royal family. You did the Oprah interview. Signed Netflix, Spotify, book deals. Some would say you've built a brand on being mistreated. Is that fair, or are you just profiting off the victim narrative?" A hush fell over the set. Meghan's expression tightened, shifting from startled to steely. "That's a deeply unfair characterization," she replied. "Speaking about racism and mental health isn't building a narrative. It's speaking truth to power. It's about shining light on issues millions face." Strahan didn't back down. "But is it really about others? Or about rehabbing your image? Some see your work as advocacy, others see damage control. Your approval ratings say as much." Meghan bristled. "I came here to talk about veterans, women, and literacy, not to relitigate tired media narratives." "I'm stunned by the tone of this interview." "I'm asking the questions people want answered," Strahan shot back. "You can't curate every conversation. Sometimes, Meghan, you have to address the elephant in the room. And what elephant is that?" She snapped. "The fact that everywhere you go, controversy follows. The royal family, your father, staff leaving, the media. At what point do you ask yourself maybe, just maybe you're part of the problem?" The blow landed hard. Meghan leaned back, eyes blazing. "That is outrageous. You're victim blaming. Would you ask a black man if he was responsible for being discriminated against?" "Don't twist this into a race issue," Strahan pushed back. "I'm a black man too. I've faced plenty. But I don't use race as a shield whenever someone challenges me." "A shield," Meghan said, stunned. "Calling out racism isn't deflection. It's survival. British tabloids compared me to chimpanzees. My child's skin color was a topic of concern before he was born. And you're telling me I'm using race as a shield?" "I'm not minimizing that," Strahan began, but the damage had already been done. The segment ended without the usual smiles. No post-interview banter, no laughter. Just a raw silence and the unmistakable feeling that something had ruptured on live television. This wasn't just an interview. It was an interrogation, and Meghan Markle walked out changed. But his tone made the implication clear. "Otherwise, what?" "I'm just asking," Strahan said, voice cool but loaded. "Whether every bit of criticism you get is automatically racist, or if maybe, just maybe, some of it is about your behavior. Your choices. The way you've handled public life." The interview had officially gone off the rails. Both were now leaning forward, voices sharp and rising. The studio humming with tension. Behind the cameras, producers were flailing silently, but no one dared interrupt. This wasn't morning television anymore. This was a confrontation. "You want to talk about behavior?" Meghan snapped, her voice stripped of any media training now. "Let's talk about a host who invites someone on under false pretenses, then ambushes her with gotcha questions. Let's talk about a journalist more interested in ratings than truth. I'm trying to have an honest conversation, Strahan said, holding firm. Something your public image seems to avoid at all costs. Everything's scripted, curated. Maybe that's the real issue. People don't trust you because they don't think they've ever seen the real you. And Meghan gave a sharp, bitter laugh. Michael, you have no idea who I really am. You know the edited clips, the headlines, the version of me built by people who needed a villain. Or maybe, Strahan said, his voice dipping into something colder. The narrative exists because there's truth to it. Maybe the reason you've had so many falling outs, so many scorched earth exits, is because the common denominator is you. His words hit like a slap. Meghan went pale, then flushed. She stared at him stunned, her mouth open, then closed again. Did you just suggest that I'm the problem in every situation I've ever been in? She asked quietly, dangerously. That I'm somehow responsible for institutional racism, for my father selling me out, for coordinated harassment campaigns from people I've never even met. I'm suggesting, Strahan pressed, now fully on the offensive, that it might be time for some self-reflection. Controversy follows you everywhere. At some point, you have to stop blaming everyone else and ask yourself why. Responsibility for what exactly? Meghan fired back. For marrying someone I love. For speaking up when I was being smeared. For walking away from a toxic situation to protect my mental health and my children. For how you've handled it all, he countered. How you've turned your story into a weapon. Personal pain into public drama. You've profited off it while pretending to rise above it. Meghan stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the floor. I'm not going to sit here and be attacked by someone who clearly came into this with an agenda, she said, fists clenched. This was supposed to be a real interview, not a takedown. Sit down, Meghan, Strahan said firmly, gesturing to the chair. No. We are, she said, standing her ground. Unless you actually want to talk about the work I came here to discuss, not tabloid garbage. The work, Strahan repeated, voice laced with derision. You mean the projects that just happen to perfectly align with rehabilitating your public image. The noble causes that make you look like a victim with a halo. Her voice cracked with emotion. How dare you? How dare you reduce my work with veterans, people who've given everything, to a PR stunt? Or my advocacy for women's empowerment to an image strategy? I'm not questioning the causes, Strahan said, though his voice said otherwise. I'm questioning your motives. Everything you do is so calculated. So perfectly packaged to make you look like the misunderstood hero. You know what's calculated? Meghan shot back. This interview. You lured me here under false pretenses, told my team we'd discuss my initiatives, and instead you've done nothing but try to tear me down. Maybe because that's what real journalism looks like, he said coldly. Not the puff pieces you're used to, where everyone's afraid to push you because you play the fragile card. Fragile. Her voice rose now, nearly shaking. You think I'm fragile, Michael? I've survived things that would break most people. Harassment, death threats, lies published daily. I've had to fight for every ounce of peace I have, and I'm still here. That's not strength, he said with a cruel smile. That's victimhood as performance art. You've built a brand around your suffering. Every project, every interview, it all circles back to how unfairly you've been treated. It's exhausting. The room was deathly silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the cameras seemed unsure whether to keep rolling. Producers whispered frantically in headsets, trying to figure out how to recover what had spiraled into chaos. You want to know what's exhausting? Meghan said, voice trembling with fury. Being a black woman in rooms where you're not welcome, where your presence is a threat, where you're expected to smile while people profit off tearing you apart. There you go again, Strahan said dismissively. Strahan's tone was sharp. Every critique becomes about race. Every tough question becomes about your identity. You can't talk about actual choices because the moment anyone presses, you pivot to discrimination. Meghan's eyes flashed. Because my choices don't exist in a vacuum, Michael, she shot back. When I speak up, I'm labeled difficult. When I stay silent, I'm weak. When I defend myself, I'm aggressive. When I don't, I'm a pushover. There's no winning for women like me. And you know it. Strahan leaned forward. Woman like you. He repeated, his voice laced with sarcasm. You mean wealthy? Privileged women who married into royalty and then spent years complaining about how hard life is. Meghan didn't flinch. I mean black women. Women who dare to have opinions. Who refuse to shrink themselves for anyone's comfort. Who won't apologize for existing in spaces that weren't made for them. And the fact that you, a black man, are sitting here trying to tear me down for speaking my truth. That's what's really exhausting. Strahan's voice dropped, sharp as a blade. Don't question my credentials as a black man. I earned everything I have through talent and work, not through marrying into it. I've faced real discrimination and real struggle, and I didn't run to Oprah every time things got tough. Meghan laughed bitterly. Oh, real discrimination. As opposed to what? Fake discrimination. You sound just like the people who tried to silence me. The ones who told me my pain wasn't valid. That I should be grateful. That my experiences didn't count. Strahan made air quotes. Your truth changes depending on who's listening. What you told Oprah was different from the Netflix special, which was different from your podcast. So which version should we believe? All of them, Meghan snapped, because trauma is messy. Healing isn't linear, and sometimes it takes time and strength, to find the words. But of course you wouldn't understand that. You've never had to rebuild your life from the ashes in front of a global audience. Strahan's voice turned icy. Maybe that's because I never set fire to my life for attention in the first place. The words hit like a slap. Meghan took a step back, stunned. Her expression crumpled for a brief second before hardening. Attention? You think I did this for attention? I gave up everything. My country, my home, my safety. I faced death threats. I put my children at risk. For attention. Strahan didn't flinch. I think you made choices. And when those choices had consequences, you blamed everyone else. Meghan's voice dropped to a cold whisper. The consequences of marrying someone I love. Of being a black woman in an institution built on whiteness. Of refusing to be silent, to be broken. You went public. You broke protocol. You aired private family drama in front of millions. Those were your decisions, Strahan pressed. Own them. Meghan's gaze was steel. Fine. I own the decision to protect my family when no one else would. I own speaking the truth, even when it was inconvenient. I own choosing mental health and my children's safety over public approval. And I own this decision, too. She reached up, unclipped her mic, and set it down on the chair. I won't sit here and be degraded by someone more interested in theater than journalism. Strahan stood. You can't just walk away, Meghan. This is live television. You don't get to control this narrative. Watch me, she said, turning her back. Strahan's voice rose. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment things get tough, when someone pushes back, you run. From the royal family. From your father. From anyone who doesn't feed your narrative. Meghan froze. Slowly she turned. Her voice was low, but it carried like a thunderclap. You want to talk about running? I ran from betrayal. From people who leaked my words to the press. From people who stood silent while I was crucified. But I didn't run from the fight. I didn't run from defending myself. I didn't run from using my voice, even when it cost me everything. Strahan scoffed. Your voice. That only shows up when the camera's on or there's a book deal on the line. My voice has raised millions for charity, Meghan replied. It's brought attention to mental health It's made women feel seen, heard, empowered. Your voice, he countered, has also torn a family apart, damaged a centuries-old institution, and turned your personal pain into a spectacle. Meghan's laugh was hollow. The family that watched in silence. The institution that adapted to everything except accepting a black woman. You're defending systems that wouldn't lift a finger to defend you. I'm defending accountability, Strahan said coolly. Something you seem allergic to. Meghan stepped forward. I've been accountable for everything. Every look, every word, every silence. Held to standards no one else is. Accused of things I didn't say. Blamed for actions I didn't take. But where's the accountability for the press that lied? For the people who harassed me? For the institution that let it happen? Strahan's voice dripped with condescension. Maybe the problem isn't that the world lacks accountability. Meghan. Maybe the real issue, Strahan said coolly, is that you can't handle being held to the same standards as everyone else. Meghan let out a short, disbelieving laugh. The same standards? Michael, show me one other person in that family whose own father sold them out to tabloids. Show me someone else who had their every emotion dissected by the press for months. Show me another royal whose mental health was mocked, whose race was weaponized in headlines. Compared to animals, Strahan didn't flinch. And show me another royal who took that pain and turned it into a brand. Who spun family trauma into streaming content. Who built an empire by monetizing their own suffering, then claimed to be above it all. I shared my story. Meghan snapped, eyes blazing. Because silence wasn't protecting anyone, not me. Not my children. And definitely not the women out there going through the same hell I was. Strahan leaned forward slightly, voice laced with a cruel smile. Or maybe you shared your story because silence doesn't pay as well. That hit like a punch to the chest. Meghan froze. The tension in her jaw, the shimmer in her eyes, it all cracked. How dare you, she said, voice trembling with fury. How dare you reduce everything I've been through? My trauma, my safety, my children's lives, to a paycheck. You have no idea what it cost me to speak. What I lost. What I'm still losing. Every single day. Losing. Strahan scoffed. You live in a California mansion. You've got multi-million-dollar deals. You're married to a prince. What exactly are you losing, Meghan? She didn't yell. She didn't flinch. She just looked down for a beat, then spoke softly. My peace. Silence. My children's right to a normal life. My relationship with my husband's family. My sense of safety. My belief that telling the truth actually matters more than protecting powerful people. She wiped her eyes quickly, ashamed of the emotion she was letting slip. And maybe worst of all, I'm losing faith that people like you, people who should know what it's like to be judged and torn apart, will ever choose humanity over headlines. Strahan folded his arms. Humanity, he echoed, voice dripping with disdain. Is that what you're calling this? Because it looks a lot like a performance. A performance. Meghan's voice rose. You think I'm performing when I talk about protecting my children? When I talk about being the only woman of color in centuries of royal history and how isolating that was? You think that's an act? I think that's exactly what this is, Strahan said coldly. A script, a role. The misunderstood, noble victim. Meghan's face went still. Then you clearly don't know me at all, she said. And this interview is over. She stood. Strahan didn't move. Running again, Meghan? He called. That your move when you don't get the last word. She paused but didn't turn. No, Michael. This is how I stop wasting my time with people more interested in destroying me than understanding me. He turned toward the camera, throwing his arms wide. The viewers deserve better than this. They deserve honesty, not rehearsed drama. Meghan finally turned back, her voice low and cutting. You want honesty. Tell the viewers you ambushed your guest. Tell them you spent 30 minutes trying to break down a black woman on live TV instead of having a real conversation. Tell them this is what journalism looks like in your world. I'll tell them the truth, Strahan shot back. That some people can dish it out, but can't handle real questions. And I'll remember, Meghan said, voice barely above a whisper but echoing across the studio, that people like you will always choose cruelty over compassion, ratings over responsibility, and spectacle over truth. She walked off, heels echoing across the now silent set. Strahan watched her go, expression unreadable. Then, after a long pause, he looked into the camera. Well, I guess that's a wrap. What do you think? Did Meghan have every right to walk off? Or should she have stayed and faced the fire? Let us know in the comments below.